It's the Sheriff Podcast, baby. Yeah. It's the Sheriff, AHL Man of the Year. 500 pro fights in his career. Got the record for most ice fights in the season. You fought the Sheriff, lucky you're still breathing. It's the Sheriff, AHL Man of the Year. 500 pro fights in his career. Got the record for most ice fights in the season. You fought the Sheriff, lucky you. We filmed the pod today. You listening tomorrow. The heavyweight champ, yeah, Sean McMahon. 13-year pro, yeah, he holding it down. Big man playing it right, thumbs up to the crowd. Rookie season threw it up, most tilts in the A, man. Sheriff badge on the bucket, heavy can play, man. Podcast trending, thanks for rocking with us, bro. Lived out his dream, yeah, he played in the show. Danny Grange managing, helping us gain shine. Shoot every episode at the studio, bottom line. When other
teams get to run. Boy, oh boy, do I ever have a treat for you. Now, ladies and gentlemen, growing up in Scarborough playing hockey with my family, we had one other family that was right on par with us. Two brothers, the same age as my brothers Patrick and Liam, and I'm going to introduce one of them right now. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls all over the world, I would like to introduce to you my guest tonight. He hails from Scarborough, Ontario. At 6'3", 225 pounds, he is a heavyweight. He was drafted in the first round, 25th overall, by the Florida Panthers. He represented Canada in the 04 and 05 World Junior Championships, bringing home a gold and silver medal.
You betcha. He
trails only Connor McDavid for the most goals in Canadian junior hockey history. He is a hockey coach, mentor, and advocate for hockey diversity. He is the chairman of Hockey Equality, over 500 professional hockey games. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, my friend, Mr. Anthony Stewart. How are you doing, my man?
Always good, and I tell everybody the Sheriff has the best introductions in all of the sports world. So again, I'm very grateful to be here today, and what a beautiful night being downtown. I don't make the trek too often down here, but anytime the Sheriff calls, you got to make sure you answer.
Well, I appreciate that, buddy. First and foremost, I'm very, very excited to have you on the show, brother. I've had you once before, but it was only a Zoom show, so having the live shows is just that much better, that much more exciting. So one thing I wanted to point out right off the hop, I'm very impressed, Anthony, because we had very good timing getting to Bottomline at the same time today. And, you know, you mentioned that you and your wife went on a nice walk around downtown Toronto. That's pretty cool, man. Do you guys find to be doing that more often these days?
Well, we're so busy, right? And, you know, with the charity, as you mentioned before, we're very, very busy. We don't find a lot of time to do much. So you got to find solace in the little things, right? And, yeah, we had a big snowstorm in Toronto today. I know some guys were supposed to be here, not calling anybody out, but we'll have a conversation later. But those little things, going for a little walk, taking in the fresh air, we try to value those things. So, but we don't make it downtown much, but it's great being down here, being with you today.
Absolutely, man, and I appreciate you saying that. I try to give credit when credit's due, and you know, couples taking walks downtown Toronto. To me, no, it's a little thing, but to me, it means a lot. So I thought it was super cool. Thought that I would mention it. So Anthony, I'm the type of dude where I only bring big characters on this show, man. Go-getters, big characters. And what I really like to do is to find out where that came from. How did this big character come about? So I like to go to the beginnings. Now, I know I've had you on one of my shows before, but I'd like to we've had a big brand new audience since then. I'd like the listeners and viewers to kind of know a little bit more about Anthony Stewart. So we're going to go to Scarborough. I know it started in LaSalle, but we're going to go to Scarborough. We're going to talk about the 5 sisters, the 2 brothers that made up the Stewart family. Humble beginnings is what I love to talk about, my friend.
Well, that sums us up, humble beginnings, right? Growing up in Scarborough, not having a lot of money, as your family knows, which helped out along the years, so really appreciate that. Great seeing Sheila as often as I do. It's always great to have no problem shouting out Sheila, the ultimate hockey mom. And but, you know, coming from Scarborough, you got to have resiliency, right? And you learn to sort of have that mask on or have that swagger on right away. So it's funny, whenever you're in Toronto and you see someone from Scarborough, you give that little smile because you naturally have that, that combination of being from the same place. So I'm proud of my beginnings. I'm proud of, the circumstances which my brother and 5 sisters grew up with, because it helped mold me to the person that I am today. So anyone that comes from Scarborough, they know they're blessed. And I'm very, very blessed to be here with you today, a fellow Scarborough person. And, you talk about our connection that we have. 6, 7, 8 guys from Scarborough coming from those humble beginnings, making it to the National Hockey League, and we were all friends, associates, workout partners, party buddies. It just shows what type of special place that Scarborough is.
Absolutely, man. And speaking of blessed, I gotta say this in the beginning of the show. The Sheriff Podcast is powered by Modern Mafia as well as Raymond LaRose. Now, Modern Mafia, ladies and gentlemen, is incredible clothing line that just came out. Check it out. They have an Instagram page. We got their hat and socks right here. Raymond LaRose, dear friend of mine, his vision is to start a youth center in Toronto. We're going to be working on that in the near future. Raymond is supporting the show tonight, and I feel absolutely blessed, just like you mentioned. So now, Anthony, I wanted to, sorry for the little interruption there, I had to get that out. I want to talk about Scarborough Malvern. I want to talk about walking to Heron Park. I want to talk about stories like this. Why don't we start off with Malvern House League's NSHA? Do you remember those times, and what were your thoughts on that, brother?
Well, to this day, and my daughter now, she plays for the Scarborough Sharks, and they play at Malvern Arena, and I get vivid memories of walking every day to Malvern Arena on the weekends to play ball hockey, foot hockey, street hockey with my brother every single weekend. And our first year of hockey was with Malvern in House League, but we had to take a year off because we couldn't afford the $300-400 that it cost the next year. So I played 1 year in Malvern hockey, but that was the staple of every weekend. My brother and I packing a lunch. We always have 50 cents to go get a pop at lunchtime. And we were there. I remember the sun not even being up yet, and we'd be home for dinner. So 12, 13, 14 hours being at the rink every single day. And so that was my beginnings playing in Malvern. And, so I sort of get a little bit upset when I see people talking about, well, we need to be on the ice 25 hours a week and all that. It's like, we're 2 brothers that made the National Hockey League. Sometimes we didn't have stick in our hands, but we were playing the game of hockey. So I then transferred to, after we can afford it, to West Hill. Mm-hmm. And, to this day, I close my eyes and I tell this story all the time. We used to have to take the bus, the 116 bus down Morningside, and we get on at John Stoner. And I knew if we were on the bus longer than 30 seconds that we weren't getting kicked off, because sometimes the bus driver would kick us off because we didn't have the bus fare. So we sometimes had to walk from Malvern to Heron Park, and that's an hour 20, hour 30-minute walk.
At least.
But that's how bad I wanted to go to hockey. But just talking about, everyone talks about the negative culture of hockey. I want to focus on the positives. And as we started walking, families would come and pick us up and drive us to the game, drive us home, make sure I have Tim Hortons. They'd come and bring groceries to the families, winter coats. So that is the community and the bond that I know and remember that helped my brother and I and family be successful. So that's why I'm doing my part and to try to replicate that, because there's families that aren't outside North America. There's families in Scarborough that can be the next Chris Stewart, that can be the next Sean McMorrow, that can be the next security guard for the weekend in Patrick McMorrow, the next NBA superstar in Liam McMorrow, or the next wrestling superstar in Liam McMorrow. So those humble beginnings and that sense of community, that hockey being the vehicle, really helped us get to where we were at.
Well, I gotta give an applause for that, buddy. We clap for each other around here, man. That's amazing. So now, people are listening to this and they're probably like, this dude walked an hour and a half to get to his SHA game. Well, yeah, you did. You guys had a passion. Now, there's never an episode that should happen where Norman is not mentioned, right? So Norman was on these walks with you, correct?
Yeah. And I talk about him and, coming from Jamaica, not knowing a thing about hockey. He immigrated to Montreal in the 70s, and he fell in love with the game because that's what made him feel Canadian. So he falls in love with the Montreal Canadiens, and to this day, he talks about Bob Gainey, Guy Lafleur, Jacques Lemaire, and, I'm 6 years old. I don't know who those guys were. Why are you telling me to play like those guys? But again, he fell in love with the game, and he was a big, proponent of me making it to the league. And those walks, but just the lessons along the way. It's minus 20. We're walking. I'm crying. He's singing. To this day, I remember him humming and singing and just finding the positive in the situation. And what I learned from that was, no matter high or how low you may be, you got to find the positives in that, but just connecting with the father and son. So to this day, when I find some days I'm too busy or something, I really ground myself in remembering my dad spending that time on just an hour and a half walk. I still remember that, 35 years later.
See that kind of stuff, like I love hearing that kind of stuff, Anthony. And I've learned a lot of things over the last couple of years. And one of the things is that for men especially, life isn't supposed to be easy. Like a lot of people, they have the mentality of treating their kids a certain way. Oh, I just want little Johnny just to have the best time possible. A strong male figure in children's lives is very important. And to be walking with your son when they're cold, when they're complaining, teaching them not only discipline, but mental toughness.
Yeah, and I coach the game now, but he did that because I wanted it. And I'm sure Sheila remembers this story. I remember the Timmy Tyke tournament. I got chicken pox the day of the Timmy Tyke, and I wasn't able to play in that tournament. And I remember crying, saying, it's not chicken pox. I'm going through puberty. It's acne. It's acne. And I remember, and that's it. And
it's pimples.
But that's how bad I wanted to play the game. And, Chris Campoli is, part of the NHLPA. And, he has conversations of, hey, we used to come try to pick you up to bring you to games, but sometimes traffic would be so bad we wouldn't make it. I remember missing a practice at 13, 14 years old, crying. That's how bad that I wanted to play the game of hockey. So I tell the kids, yes, you can do all the training, but if you don't have that passion of wanting to do it every single day, and hockey being a way of life. Hockey's not a discipline, it's a lifestyle. You know how it is.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Look at your t-shirt, right? It's a lifestyle.
Yeah.
You're not going to be successful. So that's the lesson I learned as well.
So for all of you young kids out there, I really hope you're paying attention to those last couple statements by Anthony Stewart. So Anthony, this is not in my notes. It's something that I just kind of thought of now. You mentioned my brother, Patrick McMorrow. We call him Freddie Jones Jr. When Patrick was standing here on my show, I let him know how big of an impact that Patty, yourself, and Rain Carnegie had on me growing up. Mm-hmm. So I'm not going to take too long, but I would just really like to tell you this now that you're here. When I was growing up, obviously I was the only black kid on my team. Trevor Daly was a year younger than us for the Don Mills Flyers. He would get called up to us and play in some tournaments, but 99% of the time, it was all Caucasian kids and then Sean McMorrow. There were times where I felt that I didn't belong. There was times that I was called things on the ice that I pretended that I didn't hear. There was times where I was incredibly uncomfortable and I was questioning if I should really be doing this. And the solution to that problem was me going with my mom to your and Patrick and Rain's North York Canadian games. And when I sat in that crowd and watched three black kids that were the three best players on the team, especially you, Anthony, because you were the best player in your entire age group, if not the one above and the one below. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. To me, it made me know that I did belong. If I can see these three guys doing it, even though they're 3 years younger than me, that proved to me that I did belong. And that helped me get through a lot of hard times, man. A lot of mental battles, that's the best word to use, that I had as a kid was resolved from you, Patrick, and Rain.
Yeah.
So yeah. I needed to tell you that, brother.
No,
I want to thank you.
Thank you.
I
still got the big
you
pause.
You got big mitts, buddy.
He's got to show me the pause. Yeah.
I want to thank you for being you. I also got to point out a couple other things just while I'm thinking about it. So one of the things that people would tell me my strengths is communication, greeting people, being the king of the living room. Anthony, you were doing those things when you were 10 years old. I don't know how you learned it so quickly, but I remember you tie all the way up, shirt tucked in. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. No, sir. Shaking hands properly, looking adults in the eye. Your teammates probably didn't catch on to this until they were 15, 16. Well, when you were 9, 10 years old, Anthony, in novice, U9, you were doing these types of things. And I just was blown away with your maturity and how incredible you acted in public.
Yeah.
Do you know how you figured that out?
No.
Was Norman?
It was probably the upbringing, right? And again, I think it comes down to humbleness and appreciating every single little thing, right? And I always tell the story of eating toast and ketchup for dinner and toast and syrup for dessert.
What about craft dinner?
No, but that was a luxury, right? And then you put the hot dogs and the ketchup. That's an even bigger. That's a gourmet meal. But when that's what you're used to, every single little thing you appreciate it. So it came down to you have to appreciate it. And remember, the families that helped me, these weren't millionaire, billionaire families. These were families that were going through struggles of their own. So for them to take me in and help me and go above and beyond, that just shows what type of people it is. So I always look back now at my pictures from senior kindergarten, grade 1. I always had a sweater on. I'd have a turtleneck with the sweater. And I think when I got to grade 4, I would have a shirt, tie, and my hockey jacket on. So it was just those little details of...
For the class pictures.
Yeah, but I remember that was my way of acclimating, because coming from the areas that I did, I knew I didn't belong. So I did my best almost as a shield to try to fit in, right? Because there was a lot of dirt and filth and, bad things going on there that, I could have easily been associated with, and I did my best to try to almost mask that. But it comes down to just appreciating every single little thing that the people that helped me along the way. So, I tell everybody, I thank you, because I remember sitting in the car and, you were going to junior A or junior B, and I remember you sitting there talking about the importance of drinking 5 liters a day and just those little details. So what you were going through, you helped us sort of go through it first and say, hey, this is what you're going to expect at the junior level, the OHL level. So, I didn't really take all the advice. I didn't come in as a fighter, but my brother and Wayne, they listened to that, and that's why they had longer careers.
There you go. There you go. Shout out to Chris Stewart and Wayne Dub Simmons. So another thing that I really want the listeners and viewers to embrace is the fact that when you played for the North York Canadians, you were such a polite kid, you were such a joy to be around, that there was families that wanted to help out. They wanted to assist. They saw the potential. They saw their captain. They saw the best player in the league needed a little bit of help. Now, I know that the Ziemendorf family is very close to you.
Yeah.
Do you mind talking about the assistance and the love that family gave?
Yeah, they absolutely took me in as one of their own, and that was the first family that stopped at the side of the road, where other families just kept driving, because I'm not saying there was a jealousy factor, but they just weren't in a position to help. And I forget his name, and you remember him. There was a homeless man in Toronto, in Scarborough. They used to always take the bus, and Wayne. And every winter, the Ziemendorfs would go, buy him a winter coat, buy him shoes, and he would throw it in the garbage every single time. But they knew it was the right thing to do, because they were church-going, God-fearing people. So just those little details. So that's something I remember, that they didn't have a lot. They weren't millionaires. They weren't multimillionaires. They were very, very humble. For them to take me in and give me my own room, and I remember the lunches that they packed me every single day, that helped me, right? I made it. My brother made it, tremendously talented, but it was families like the Ziemendorfs and yours that went above and beyond to help us, and just feeding us and clothing us and dressing us and getting us to the rink. That was half the battle, but most of all, they loved us, and that's what helped us for sure.
So I got to give it
Yeah,
up.
the Ziemendorfs. Yeah.
The Ziemendorfs. There you go. So now, at this time period right now that we're talking, this along the timeline, I should say. Now, you're an incredible hockey player. You love playing the game. Huge passion for the sport. Big C for Big Stu on your jersey. Now, when Pee Wee came along, which I guess would be U13, there was a big tournament in Quebec City, right? The Pee Wee International Tournament. Now, my brother talks about this tournament quite a bit. I know that I think you guys made it to the finals. Do you mind talking about that? Every guest that's been in this tournament, I love to get their take on the Pee Wee
tournament. It is the best tournament ever, and I know the GTHL's not in it, and I'm going to politic. It's on my docket to get them back in it, because it wasn't just great for the on-ice, it was the off-ice experience. And I think it was myself, your brother, Patrick, and Mike Charlton. We billeted with a family that didn't speak English, and we had to use whatever little French we learned in school to try to communicate. But just there, staying up to 3 a.m, joking around, but going to the arena at 12 years old, and people waiting for autographs after. Back then they could smoke in the Coliseum, and you'd have young girls with cigarettes in their mouth. Hey, can you sign something? That was my first experience of, hey, this could be a future for me. I love this. I was really enamored with what was going on, and it's funny. I think we lost to the Russians in the semifinals, and I'm not going to spread any rumors, but I'm thinking Ovechkin and Kovalchuk were on that same team. I don't know how that works.
Patty said that Ovechkin was definitely
but they were tremendously talented. But that was the first international tournament where we're like, hey, like there's hockey beyond Toronto. There's hockey beyond Ontario. There's a whole other world out there that I want to be a part of. So definitely a great experience. And if you have the opportunity to play, go. I know it's expensive now, but it's a life experience. The parents had a great time. I remember our coach walking around in shorts the whole time, and the parents having an amazing time. Great tournament.
And that was Kevin, right?
Yeah, Kevin Robinson.
Kevin Robinson. Shout out to Kevin Robinson. So that tournament was your first taste of stardom, first taste on the big stage, the bright lights. I mean, in my opinion, every player needs to experience that. So I'm very, very happy that you're fighting to get this back. Brother, I didn't even know the GTHL pulled out of the Quebec Pee Wee tournament.
Politics.
What are you guys thinking?
But I will say this, and I will say this in their defense, as I think it was the top 4 teams would go, and the GTHL would have to pause their season.
Okay.
Because only 4 teams. So they wanted all their teams to go, but the tournament said, well, if all your teams are going and the finals are all GTHL teams, that's not fair to the other countries, because it's not just a competition tournament, it's for the experience, and you want different teams there as well.
Fair enough. All right. Well, hey, I guess it's not that bad GTHL, but I'm still a little bit upset. So now there was another cool thing, Anthony. Now that we're still staying on the storyline, the timeline. Now your family knew the potential that you had, since you were a young kid. And when we had our interview last time, you were explaining little things about, like, the food was limited. So if we got half a chicken here and we're giving out our portions, guys, Anthony's got a game tomorrow, so he's going to get the biggest piece of chicken. Do you remember that?
Yeah, and we used to have 3-for-1 pizza. I don't think they have that anymore, where the family would share 2, and then I would get the 1 to myself. So that's a lot of pressure to put on a 10, 11, 12-year-old, but I knew that was the sacrifice the family was making. But in turn, you know what that did? It made my brother Chris hungrier.
Yes,
Right?
absolutely.
It made him hungrier, where, he was sort of, coming in next, but he was able to sort of sit in that pocket, not have the pressure of the family, but learn from me, who was 2.5 years older. So bigger piece of chicken, nicer clothes, longer time on the phone, if you're calling long distance to your girlfriend in California. Just those sacrifices, because they knew, and they said it every time, well, when you turn 18 years old and you sign an NHL contract, you're buying the family a house. And that's exactly what I did.
That is, hey,
yeah.
gotta clap for that around there. That's incredible pressure, but what execution that you did. Because I know that Bobby Orr was your agent, and I know the first thing that you said to him.
But I have and they didn't really agree with that, but it's like the power of persuasion, right? And why is your brother 7'2"? What is the number one reason why he claims it is?
Why is he 7'2"? He's got a 6'6" dad and a 6' mom.
No, why did he grow from 6'6" to 7'2"?
Because he was
in
hungry,
his mind.
He was hungry?
He told himself, "I'm going to grow to 7'2".
Okay,
so
manifestation.
Yes,
the manifestation.
Right, and I honestly believe that. And for me, I manifested it. And when you think about it, and you've played a game in the NHL, how hard it is. Think about it. We just saw a team from Denmark.
Yes.
Right?
Thank you for doing that.
There's a team in Sweden. There's kids, how fast and how many hockey players are making it that are playing to now get that pool down to 700 people. Just think of that.
I know.
Right? And there's 7,000 people to play a game in the National Hockey League. So you do the math on that. We're one of 7,000. That's a very, very great accomplishment. So shout out to you, and round of applause to you, because you are one of 7,000 as well, right?
Thank you, buddy. Thank you. I appreciate it. I love my tires being pumped, so thank you very much, buddy. Okay, so moving along, Anthony, I'm very excited about this because I just love this story. So, North York Canadians, very dominant, played till Bantam. Now, what I noticed today, Anthony, when I was doing a little research, is you had a little stint with the St. Mike's Buzzers. Now, was that after the Bantam season, like entering the playoffs for the Buzzers, just to give you a little bit of experience, or what was that all about?
I think it was during the season, and there was only 2 times in my life where I felt that I didn't belong or hockey wasn't going to be for me, and the one was in the NHL, my first game against the Detroit Red Wings against Datsuk and Franzen and Lidstrom, where I'm like, I'm not going to cut it here. I got Cronwald, I got killed. And then my first junior A hockey game when I was playing in Bantam, because I was a center my whole entire career, and I got called up and I played wing. And I was like, what's wing? I don't know how a wing is.
Yeah.
And we were playing in, I think I played 3 games. 2 of the games were in St. Mike's, which is a small rink.
Small.
Guys are the same size as you. They're fast because they're junior A college guys. And then our other game was Scarborough Arena Gardens against Wexford, which was a powerhouse at the time. So I was very, very nervous playing those games because I wasn't comfortable playing on the wing. But I think I ended up finishing with assist. But I got the feedback, hey, he did really, really good for a kid coming out of Bantam, and you have a bright future as well.
That's incredible. Thank you for sharing that. We're going to fast forward to the OHL. Now, I was with the London Knights when you were getting drafted. And I remember talking to Jimmy McKellar, who was the director of player personnel. Now he's with the Blackhawks, saying like, hey, so are you guys, is your radar on the Stewart kid or what? He's like, oh yeah, Anthony's right at the top of our list. Like, we're thinking that we might even be picking him because I think they had the 5th pick.
Yeah.
And you ended up going to Kingston, 7th overall. Okay, London took Corey Perry, but I know that during junior, they made a couple comments. Man, I wish we would have taken Stewart in that 5th pick. Because Perry didn't really do as well he was supposed to in junior. He ended up having a great NHL career, but in junior, he was a little bit under production. So I remember you going to Kingston. I was happy that you went to Kingston because Kingston is such a storied franchise, brother. I don't there's Oshawa, there's Kingston, there's certain teams that are very storied franchises. Your experience in Kingston was very successful, but what I really want to get to right now, and the story that I really need the viewers and listeners to understand, is once in a lifetime story here, is how you set up your brother Chris Stewart.
Yeah.
Now you were the captain of the team, you were the franchise player, best player by far, had already taken home a gold medal for the country. For you listeners that didn't hear my intro, this man right here has the most goals in Canadian World Junior history, other than Connor McDavid. The most goals, more than Wayne Gretzky, more than Connor Bedard. This is absolutely incredible. So the accolades that you had at that time were very high. So you had a lot of power. You had a lot of power with the organization. Influence, would you say?
Yeah, but I never wielded that power, right? But I had a great relationship, and the late great Larry Mavety.
Yes,
where,
God bless his soul.
He loved me like a son, and I made a lot of sacrifices in playing in that organization, and he gave me a great opportunity. And the one thing is, we weren't really good at that time, but he put me in a great position to succeed, where right away I was playing first line minutes. I was on the power play, I was on penalty kill. We didn't really have many systems, but I just got out there and I learned the game right away. So once I had a really good career, I came back before my final year, and I noticed my brother, who quit hockey at the time, was playing football. And he was still playing hockey just as fun, and I saw him play in a random game, and he still had really good hands. He was my official weight right now, which is like 250 pounds, right, of course. And I said, hey, if this guy gets in shape, he can play. So I said, do you want to come back? And he said, yeah. So I said, well, you get in shape, I'll do my best to get you a tryout. So it started from him. We'd go for a run. He couldn't keep up, so he'd be on the bike, riding the bike as I go for the run. A couple weeks later, he'd be on rollerblades. By the end of the summer, he was running and actually beating me in those runs, those 3-4 mile runs that we used to go on, and I knew he was ready. So I went to Larry Mavety and I said, hey, my brother just needs an opportunity. Let's bring him to camp. And, can you give him a chance? And he said, well, yes. And he said, if he doesn't do well, I'm going to cut him, and then I'm going to trade you. Do you still want him to come? And I said, yeah. So he ended up coming in, and, we had the conversation like, hey, there's not really a lot of room here. You're going to have to fight. And he went in, made the team as a fighter. And when I went away to World Juniors, they put him in my spot. He was in and out of the lineup for about the first 3 months. And he finished the season with 18 goals as a walk-on 250-pound football player. So, so anyone asks me what my number one accolade is, or my number one accomplishment, was helping somebody accomplish their dreams. And he went from a walk-on to playing, 760 games in the National Hockey League. So that's a great accomplishment.
It is. And just before I get this clap in, there would be no Chris Stewart hockey player if it wasn't for Anthony Stewart. And that kind of brotherly love, I'm amazed by, and I appreciate it so much, buddy. And you know what? Chris is one of my favorite players of all time. I think he hit the 700 game mark in the NHL.
Yep.
Okay?
Yep.
And to know that you pretty much pushed him along, you opened that door for him. He worked his butt off to get there, but the opportunity is what it's all about him.
And that's what it is now. And we talk about growing the game, and some of these kids, they just need an opportunity. They need someone to gently open that door for them. We can't help them get through the door, but we just got to help them get to the door. And that's all I did, get him to the door to really show his potential. So, it's funny. He paid it forward and went above and beyond to help mentor Wayne Simmons. And all three of us helped out Devontae Smith-Pelly. So we paid it forward. All four of us trained together, worked out together, and prepared for the NHL together. So that's what it's about. Again, when you climb the ladder, you want to do your best to help those get up as well.
Yeah, and thanks for sharing that. And then I guess if we're going to talk about training, we have to mention Mr. Matt Nichol.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say, when am I getting back in the gym? But Matt Nichol is, again, it's, when you talk about him, it's just the person. Yes, everyone has exercises. Everyone can explain how to do it. But he connects with you in explaining why it's important, not just for you, the hockey player, but you as the person and lifestyle. So he helped me change my lifestyle. And there's some times when you're down and out and you're not sure if you're going to make it back to the NHL or you're in the minors. He made you feel like you're ready to take on the world. And, for me, my main thing was just, I had to make weight. And every time I went to him, I made my weight probably about 6 weeks before training camp, as opposed to doing it the day before. So I owe a lot of my success to him, who's gone above and beyond, and he's a big part of our program now, where he gives scholarships to our young players coming up. It's easy to talk about him, the trainer, who's doing great things now with his gym and being a sports scientist with the Ottawa Senators, but him, the person, he is one of the top people in the all of the world for sure.
That's cool. Big shout out to Matt Nichol.
Yep.
So, I mean, this goal thing for the Canadian World Juniors, buddy. I'm a big stat guy, so I just love it, man. And I'm just thinking of all these stars, Anthony, like Wayne Gretzky, Mark Messier, like all these people. You have more goals than them, and I give you a lot of credit for that.
Well, that might be my career over Team Canada, because remember, I played under 17.
Yeah.
I played U18 twice, so I was there because the teams I wasn't on were that strong. So they weren't that strong. That's why I played a lot of games.
Very humble. I absolutely love it. Very humble, man. To my right, to your left. All right, so 2004, you guys fell a little bit short.
Yeah.
And that was to the Americans.
Yeah.
2005, you guys took care of business, and you guys won the gold medal.
Yeah.
So did you do the bite on the gold, and did you do all that stuff?
No. I was thinking how much I can sell this for right now. No. It was a great accomplishment, because you're playing with amazing players like Sidney Crosby, Ryan Getzlaf, Corey Perry, Seabrook. So we knew from then, we were talking about if that team, it was during the lockout, was an NHL team, we'd probably be a playoff contending team. So to be a part of one of the best teams in history, and we see these guys, I see these guys all the time now that I'm doing media. They still remember like it was yesterday, and we pick up exactly where we left off.
Right on, buddy. And I really appreciate you sharing that. Those are just like no big deal, but those are kind of some big names, I guess. So now let's jump into, during this time, you were a drafted player, as were all they. You guys were all big shot first rounders, right? So now, getting drafted is one thing, but signing an NHL entry contract is another.
Yeah.
Now, we're going back to the days of the pre-bonus cap days. And to let the ladies and gentlemen, the audience understand, now Sidney Crosby was the first year of the new era. Mm-hmm. Sidney Crosby's bonus was $250,000,
yeah,
which is now the cap. Before that, ladies and gentlemen, I believe the cap went up to, was it 1.1 that it
something like that, yeah.
$1.1 million. Now, you were somewhat close to that.
Yeah.
You were 19 years old probably when you signed, or were you 18?
I was 19.
19 years old when you signed. I know you took it in installments, but let's just say $1 million, Anthony. Now, I'm hearing stories from other players all over the world, guys that really got messed up when they got that money, guys that made huge mistakes. But you, my friend, you were very good and careful. You did some very, very thoughtful things. I'll let you talk about houses and all that kind of stuff for the family. Now, Bobby Orr was your agent. I'm trying to figure out, how did a 19-year-old, how were you able to control it, bro? Like, where were you getting the guidance? Do you give the credit to Bobby Orr?
Well, for us, it was, growing up from humble beginnings, we did what we could to sort of give back. And all those sacrifices, I had those conversations with, my financial people. If, I retire tomorrow and I go broke, I want to have on my resume that I did right by my family and bought them a house. So it was against some people's wishes, but again, understanding the Caribbean family dynamic, you take care of yours, you take care of your own. So for me, whether I had $1 million, $2, or $200 million in the bank, taking care of your family was the number one priority. So I made sure I did that. And I just think of the first Christmas my mom had, bought her a brand new TV. She had cash in her pocket, just seeing the smile on her face. And the irony of that she passed away a year after she got to live in her house. So she got to
God bless her soul.
She got to see, the fruits of our labor and the sacrifices, even if it was for 1 year. So, should I have put it in the bank? Probably, and saved a little bit of it. But again, we took care of family. And again, it helped I have 5 younger sisters. They've gone on to do some great things as well. So doing right by them was the number one priority.
Absolutely, buddy. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank
and
you.
You know what? Buying a house for the family, no one's looking down on that. That's probably one of the best investments that you could have made, other than a high-interest bank account in Switzerland. But yeah, bro, I mean, kudos to you, man. Like that's incredible.
Thank you.
That's incredible
Thank you.
what you did. I gotta give you a big handshake for that as well. All right, so we're gonna move along to the pro career. Now, I remember there's a couple times in our careers, Anthony, where we've crossed paths, and being a Sabres draft pick, playing for the Rochester Americans, a very, very historic team, the oldest team in the American Hockey League. We had a chance to play with each other before you were up with Florida full time. I know you got called up like immediately, but I think for maybe the first 4 or 5 games of the season that you were with Rochester. Now, we were roommates on the road. I remember that.
Yeah.
And the one thing I remember the most is how much Randy Cunnyworth liked you, bro. He was a really big fan of yours. Were you guys end up having a relationship past that?
Yeah, no, we had a pretty good relationship, but his job was to develop and get guys to the NHL, and he was probably one of the best guys as a coach to do that, right?
Yeah.
Because he wasn't the most talented guy as a player, but he was the hardest worker, right? Captain of the Ottawa Senators, played a great NHL career. And it was a bit of a weird dynamic as we were Florida and Buffalo all stuck together in Rochester. So, there was a bit of that rivalry, but again, kudos to you for going above and beyond and, inviting us out to, the team get-togethers and giving us the lay of the land and, showing us where to go and most importantly, not to go in the city of Rochester. It was great having, someone that, looks like me that, have my back. So, I think people need to understand all the great players that were in Rochester at that time. I'm how do we not win? It was like Novotny, Roy,
Jason Pominville,
Ryan
Miller, all-time winningest U.S. goalie,
Clark MacArthur, Stafford. So it was great. What you learned being in Rochester was how to be a pro. No one was going to be there to carry you and drag you by the hand. You had to learn what it was because it was hard practices, hard workouts. You're in a hard division playing against Bingo, and you're playing against Syracuse, and you got Yablonski and Morassi and all these guys running around. And you left. I think you were called or you're traded by then. We had to fight those battles, but it taught you how to be a pro, and I'm really appreciative for my days in Roch.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
I'm sure the Rochester Americans are just loving to hear that you had that kind of experience there. So I'm going to jump a little bit down the road here because there's a lot of things that I want to talk about other than our playing career. So I know here we are downtown Toronto. We got the Leaf game on TV. Now, at one time, the Toronto Maple Leafs offered Anthony Stewart a contract. I don't know if the viewers and listeners know this. Now, as a player, we have to make the best decisions for our family. I know that the stability of things are also important. Can you tell us your decision-making method for not taking the Leafs contract? And I think you ended up going with Carolina.
Yeah, I regret it to this day, right? Because
Really?
you think about the guys that played in Toronto, they're treated like legends with the alumni and, just how first class an organization it is. And, since I turned down the contract, you're seeing Simmons play there, Ryan Reeves, who are good friends, and just what they have to say about the organization. But for me, I think it would be tough being from Toronto and having to deal with tickets every single game and going back and forth. But I think ultimately it was at a time where they were buying out a lot of contracts and eating a lot of contracts. I think Jeff Finger got bought out or was in the minors. I think it was right around Robida Island time. So I was scared, right? But going back, now that I'm on the media side, seeing how well the players are treated. Yes, there's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of outside factors, but when you're doing well in this city, there's not a better market in the National Hockey League. And I'm walking up here before the game, and the fans are hooting and hollering. These guys are legends. They'll forever be legends in Toronto. So if I could go back and make another decision, if they added a couple $100,000 more, I could see myself being in.
But now it was also a 1-year deal compared to a 2-year.
Yeah,
deal,
Carolina
right?
offered 2 years.
So we're talking twice the amount of money, right?
Yeah, but just look at the opportunities now that a guy like Simmons is going to have being in the alumni, and the Canadian Alumni Associations do really, really well by their players, and it's not just about money; it's about keeping them in the limelight, keeping them active, and keeping them being productive members of society.
Absolutely, brother. Absolutely. So now, I also wanted to get into, towards the end of your career, when you made the decision to go over to Russia. Now, the KHL has a crazy reputation for certain things. What was your experience though? Like, because everybody has a different experience. Did you like playing in Russia, or would you have rather played somewhere else?
It was an experience. I'll just leave it at that. But, and I tell everybody, I wouldn't change it for the world, right? But let's just say I had a notebook and I'd write down every day the things that I saw or had to go through there. But again, it's, now that I'm almost 40 years old, I get to tell people that I played in Russia. I lived in Russia. I've lived in Switzerland. I've traveled the world. Yeah. So when I talk about my experiences, I get a little bit more. People respect it a little bit more because I've had those experiences. So when I'm talking to a young player about going over to overseas, hey, well, yeah, if you're going to go to Russia, maybe you should go here. If you're going to go to Switzerland. So I have that experience. There were some weird things. And, I hear all the podcasts about Russian gas. It is a thing. But it's really, really good hockey. But I understand and have an appreciation now for the Russian players that come over here, not knowing the language, not necessarily knowing the food, not knowing pop culture. It is totally different over there. If you don't speak Russian or have somebody with you, it's really, really tough to navigate. And me being over there with a wife and a kid, it was definitely a tough experience, but one I wouldn't never change.
So the family was with you?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
That's pretty, okay.
Yeah.
That's an experience for all of you guys.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Everyone calls my son a Russian spy now.
Right on. So now another thing I wanted to kind of talk about that I'm incredibly impressed with is the ability to adapt to new situations, dynamics, and atmosphere. So now towards the end of your career, you were still hungry to play. You still had some play in you. So I was playing in a professional league in Quebec, and they said to me, "Do you know Anthony Stewart?" And I said, "Yes, I actually do know Anthony Stewart." They're like, "Well, he was born in LaSalle. He's eligible to play for us. Can you recruit him?" So I did whatever I could to get you to come, which you did. Now, all I want to say about this time period is that this guy right here showed up to one of the most unique professional leagues that is the style of play that was in the 80s and 90s in the NHL. Would you agree with that, Anthony?
Yeah.
Hard-hitting, fights, goals, it
was the toughest league, most entertaining league, and again, it's not for the weak or fainted heart. So, it took me some time to get acclimated, and I had to learn who to fight, who not to fight, who to stay away from. But it was a great experience, and kudos to you for helping me get that job. And I'd fly in, and I'd come in and I'd make sure I bring you a Boston Pizza pregame meal, and then we'd drive up there 3 hours.
Yeah, for that one.
So it was definitely great. It took a while to get known and feared there, but it was a great experience. It's a shocker that we were supposed to win that year.
Yeah.
But it was definitely. It was tough. It was tough, but it was fun. It was a lot of fun, and I have an appreciation for the Quebec hockey fan because they are very, very passionate. So I'll lead that to saying, does Quebec deserve another hockey team. 110%. They have the fan base that could appreciate it and come support it, and most likely make it a viable business, to say the least.
Yeah, don't even get me started with that. I mean, I lived in Quebec City for 3 years, lived in Montreal for 2, lived in Jonquière, Quebec for another year. But when I lived in Quebec City, they built this spaceship that's right beside this old city. They were so proud. They were so eager to get their team, and then they were told no. So they
no for now.
No for now. No for now. Quebec will get its team. Before I move from this Quebec topic, Anthony, I have to let the viewers and listeners know this guy scored his first goal that he played in the league. He later then scored a hat trick. I think in like your third or fourth game, you got a hat trick. It was like the second or third weekend. But one of the more impressive things that I got to talk about, Anthony, you got to tell this story. It was a game that was in Cornwall, and the game was starting to get rough. Now, Anthony Stewart was a huge target because of his resume, because of his stardom. He was a huge target by the teams. They all figured if they got this guy rattled and off his game, they would have an advantage in the match, which you think would be true. But the mental toughness of this man overcame it. Do you mind telling the story of when Bob Desjardins called you out and how you reacted to it?
Yeah, I think that's probably one of only the few times I've ever fought mad, and fought like my brother Chris, where I was a madman. And I was sitting on the bench, and I just saw the coach always just yelling at me. I was trying to ignore him most of the game, but I think it was, I don't know, the second or third period.
Stewart, fight!
He was standing on the bench. He was literally standing on the boards and pointing like, you fight him, fight. And I was so mad, I literally got up. I changed. The puck was about to drop. I changed. And
you just jumped on.
Yeah, I jumped on. No, I jumped on. I kicked whoever was on the wing, and I went and I ended up fighting. I forget who it was, but I beat the crap out of him. But I was so upset that I'm like, who is this coach to call me out and try to call me out physically? It was a good challenge. I answered the bell, and I'll tell you that. I think I was respected, as that was sort of my welcoming to the league. I was respected, and I think I was feared after that, where I was able to score some goals in the playoffs because of that night.
Well, the guy that you took on, his last name is La Riviere. There's a couple of Rivieres. I don't know why I can't think of his first name. I know him personally. I played with him. Now, I'm sorry, buddy. He's a one-dimensional tough guy, okay? That was his game. So the fact that he fought our first-line right-winger goal scorer, the fact that he lost to our first-line right-winger goal scorer, yes, it did earn your respect. Everyone around the league knew Anthony Stewart is no pushover. The dude's a tough guy. And if you're going to take him on, you better be ready, because you're going to get your head pounded in if you're not. And the fact that you were getting hat tricks, the fact that you were fighting one-dimensional tough guys, I mean, Stewie, it was very, very impressive. And if you ever go to a game in the LNAH, man, they might even get you to stand up and do a round of applause. Buddy.
Well, I am from Quebec, right? So I guess I am one of them. But I think for that, it was, again, it was just sort of me, saying, hey, can I still play this game? Do I still got it, right? Because you're sort of at a crossroads of my career. I ended up retiring after that, but I was really proud of myself, because I could easily said, you know what, I'm too good for this league, or you know what, but I wanted to show respect to, where I'm from, the team, but most importantly, you who brought me in there, and staked your reputation on that too. So thank you for that.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that a lot, brother. So now, there's so much more to talk about. We have such a limit of time. What I really want to get in is I want to get into coaching. I want to get in the fact that you're such a big advocate for hockey diversity. We're going to talk about hockey equality, but first let's talk about the coaching. So now, how long have you been coaching, Mr. Stewart?
I think I'm on my 9th year.
You're on your 9th season.
9th year coaching in the GTHL, and for me, it's, I want to help. I want to help give back to the people that helped me, but the community that helped raise me. And again, the game is very, very expensive, so I want to be able to run my programs and actually be on the ice and help those that are less fortunate, that might not have that opportunity. So in my program, regardless of your race, your background, gender identity, you're more than welcome in our programs. And if you can afford $10, $20, $0, you're going to have a place on our ice. So it's very, very fulfilling now, because I think this year is going to be the first year where we're going to have NHL draft picks from our program, and to have a small hand in that and just giving any advice for those kids, it's well worth it getting up every single day going to the rink.
Wow. So how are you guys doing this year?
We start playoffs next week. Again, this is the most talented team I've ever had, so it's tough to really coach them on getting in on the forecheck and back checking. But again, very, very talented. We have some players that are going to be, I think, draft picks. It's tough to tell at 11 years old, but it's fun. It's fun coming to the rink every single day. Yes, there's politics. Yes, there's parents that might have unreal expectations, but every team, there's 6 or 7 kids that get it, that make it well worth it coming to the rink every day.
Right on. So I want to give a round of applause just for the fact that what you're giving back as a head coach, I'm just trying to imagine me being 11 years old and you being who you are now, and me being able to say that you're my coach. The kids must look up to you. They can look you up. They can see what you did. They can see you scoring goals in the NHL. They can see you sticking up for your teammates. They can see the way that you dress. They're probably copying every way that you move, Anthony. You're such a big role model, buddy. And the kids are so lucky to have you. And the program that you're running, I know that you guys are a winning team, but I believe that the team is good because of your experience and because you know how to be on a good team.
Yeah, I think for me, and I think where a lot of coaches get it wrong, that they've played pro or the OHL, they come and say, well, I did things this way, so you need to do it like me. Whereas I come in, I try to teach the kids not on my strength. Here's what I didn't do. Okay. And this is why you need to do that, right?
Yes.
And I was a leading scorer in minor hockey, the junior level. When I got to pro, there were certain things I did not do. So if you want to be successful in the game, I'm going to teach you the good things, but I'm going to teach you the things that you really have to do to be successful. And people don't want to play defense, or they don't want to back check. But I'm like,
Getting the puck out.
Whoa. Making the first save as a goaltender. Those are little things that I had to learn the hard way, and I'm teaching those kids those lessons. And I'll tell you right now, we have kids that aren't the most talented, but they play the game the right way, and they might have a better career than me because of those lessons that they learned from 8, 9, 10 years old.
Thank you for sharing that. That's absolutely incredible. Hockey equality. I'm getting a smile on my face because Hockey Equality is one of those programs that, if it was around, Anthony, when we were kids, could you imagine the difference that the experience that we would have had, the difference it would have been? And we need to talk about this. We need to put this on the platform right now. When did Hockey Equality start?
We started 2020, just as the pandemic was starting, finishing, something like that. But running my hockey school, we subsidize a lot of kids for their costs for hockey. But what happened now after the pandemic, all the prices went up. All the ice prices went up. And it was just too tough for me personally to leverage my personal bank account in supporting all these kids. So we ended up getting a group together, all the kids that we've coached over the years, and had a mentorship summit. And we got all the top Black players together, Indigenous, First Nations players, South Asian players, and we had mentorship. And I leveraged my relationships and had people that helped me in the media come out and really go above and beyond to sort of mentor these kids. So the NHL caught wind of what we were doing and going above and beyond, and they ended up financing our program for the last 3 years. So we have 1,000 kids now, over 1,000 kids onboarded. We do everything from mentorship to registration to skates and equipment. And you know the feeling of getting a brand new stick, right? Or a brand new pair of skates. So we do everything to try to help these families, because as we talk about growing the game and the diversity side, the financial barriers are so deep, and they're so much for some of these families. Where we're talking about growing the game, it costs a lot of money just to get on the ice, right? A lot of these families are new to Canada. They don't even know where to go for a skate. They don't even know I need a new pair of pants. So we're trying to be that conduit and that go-between and that buffer between the organizations and really help these families, because they need it. And it's great to see, we have families from Korea, Afghanistan, all over the place in our program. And when you're on the ice and hockey represents what the city is, that's very, very fulfilling to myself. And shout out to Shante, who's the executive director and the boss. I'm the politician of the group, but she does all the hard work. And I'm telling you, of these 1,000 families, she knows every single one, where they play, what their financial needs are, what issues they're going through. And that's really what I think separates us. We know these families. We know and love these families like they did for myself and my brother growing up.
No, I was gonna say it's a family affair, that you guys are a team doing this. I think Shantae's in the crowd. I think we might be able to get her to come up. I do see a hockey equality shirt. Shante.
She's coming.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, Shante is coming up. And what is Shante's position?
She is the executive director. So,
Executive director.
Yeah.
The mind, the power, everything. This is you right here. You're still. You don't have to.
Yeah.
So Shante, do you mind telling a little bit of your experience with hockey equality and what it means to you?
Well, I got to go back because, Sean, you went back to the beginning. So, Scarborough, from time, right? You know, I grew up right alongside Anthony, watching him go through those struggles. I am one of two women of color who I've ever met in the NHL level, the other one being my sister-in-law, Holly Smith, well, now Holly Stewart. It was something that was close to home, and when Anthony came back to give back to the community that we both grew up in, it was kind of an easy thing to do. Watching these families struggle, hearing their stories, it was kind of became our calling. Hockey equality began just out of just the need growing in the community. A lot of families, you know, struggling financially. Black Lives Matter movement pushed us in a direction where people started to listen to the negative experiences of players of color. You know, the issues in gender inclusion and with the queer community and all of those marginalized groups in hockey. Anthony just finally said, you know, I don't want to take a speedboat with one group. I want to take a cruise ship with everyone. And the NHL jumped on and they committed almost $1 million over the first 3 years to our organization. They believed in what we were doing. We spread everything across, you know, the city, from programs to financial assistance to mentorship. But one thing we didn't realize that kind of came out of it was our advocacy, being able to help deal with maltreatment cases, our accountability project with our pledge for anti-racism. That became a big part of it. And I know it sounds crazy to know over 1,000 kids and their stories, but majority of them have called me at some point and have talked to me about what they were going through, have asked for help and assistance in this way or that way. And the hardest part of what we do is that we really can't help everyone as much as we want to. We still need sponsorship. We still need money. $1 million over 3 years for hockey is not a lot. That literally pays our ice costs, I would say. And we just want to keep going. It's just something that the hockey world needs. Looking at, you know, what Scarborough used to be, not a lot of kids have that. A lot of kids do grow up like you, Sean, where they're the only one of color that they ever see. We have kids out in the Western Canada that tell us, hey, don't forget about us out west. You know, we have Kirk Brooks, who, you know, his family's originally from Nova Scotia, has Seaside Hockey that pays homage to, you know, the growth of hockey out in Nova Scotia and the impact and influence of that in the hockey world. We have a lot of people that are just kind of moving the needle with us, and we just kind of want to just keep going.
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. There's two things that I want to add. So the first thing is, sometimes, like being a part of Seaside, I've seen this. Sometimes it's not always about the money.
No.
Let's give an example. An Indian family that's immigrated to Scarborough. They're not familiar with hockey. They may not feel welcome to the average organization just by what it's made a part of and what it looks like to them. They may feel a little bit uncomfortable. Hockey equality, what it does is not only may it help with financial stuff, but it lets people feel welcome and wanted. And that's what I feel is a huge part of making hockey more diverse. It's welcome, come guys, yes, we want you on the team. Not all the politics and noses up like hockey's been in the past, and oh yeah, you never played hockey before, you shouldn't be here. You know what I mean? So the welcomingness, if that's a word, and just the warmth, I believe is such a big point.
Well, I'd like to, one thing that Anthony doesn't talk a lot about is Anthony's actually co-founder of Seaside. So Seaside was built around the same time as we did Hockey Equality. Kirk
I didn't
felt
even know
his...
that.
Well, it was Anthony and Nathaniel, Kirk's son,
Yep.
and Kirk,
And
who
Kirk.
decided that there needed to be an avenue that created a house league that for the kids to register and play.
Yes.
So Kirk decided to take that and run with it. We had the charitable side. We do support a lot of Hockey Equality, from Hockey Equality, a lot with Seaside, with equipment and financial assistance, paying registration costs and gate fees and things like that for the kids coming up. There's a lot of support on that side. With Seaside, the thing is that, you know, it's not always about the financials, but you need somebody that's actually going to come ask you, hey, do you want to play hockey?
Yeah.
And that is really all it takes. And Kirk, that's one thing he does.
Yep.
Everywhere he goes. I remember watching him just this past year at his equipment day where kids were coming to get equipment, and they had siblings, and he's just asking them, where's your equipment? And they're like, oh, I'm not signed up. He's like, well, go get equipment, come sign up. And it's that simple. You need just that one step towards it. And that's really like the joy of Seaside, is just being able to stay on the ground and connect in the community and just ask somebody, hey, do you want to try hockey? I can help you get equipment, figure out registration, help you sign up, and I can do the whole process with you. And once I've done it with you, now you have the ability to go forward. You know, I don't think Seaside's out here trying to build NHL players. They're saying that we want to create a culture of hockey that looks more like our community.
I don't think I could have said that any better, Shanti. That's unbelievable. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Hockey Equality, I believe, is probably one of the most positive programs in history. Seaside, the HDA, we're all trying our best. And dude, the co-founder of Seaside, the chairman of Hockey Equality, you are the brains behind everything, and I love it. So I want to congratulate both of you. Thank you very much.
A little bit rough.
Thank you very much. I really, really appreciate both of you guys. And I think that this is a perfect way to end the show. I want to thank everybody for tuning in to another episode of The Sheriff. We will see you guys next time. Woo! Sorry, Aguilar.
It's the sheriff.